The rain had thinned to a mist by the time Alicia Monroe stepped to the glass doors of City Hall, her heels clicking against marble that still smelled faintly of bleach and old power. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a copier groaned like it was tired of reproducing the same lies. She held her badge between two fingers, the plastic warm from her palm. Temporary consultant. It read in neat black letters. The word temporary felt heavier than the rain-soaked coat, clinging to her shoulders. "Hey!" a voice cut in. Sharp, casual, commanding. Officer Derek Harlan leaned against the security desk, arms crossed, uniform crisp, eyes already bored. He didn't look at her face, just the badge. "You can't use the executive elevator," he said. "Temps don't get that access." Alicia inhaled slowly. The air tasted like dust and disinfectant. "I'm expected upstairs," she replied, keeping her voice even. Harlan finally looked up, one eyebrow lifting. A smirk flickered, practiced and cruel. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice like he was offering advice. "Don't get comfortable. People like you're here to fill space until someone permanent shows up." The word landed like a slap. People passed. No one stopped. A man in a suit glanced over, then away. Silence lined up neatly behind the officer. Alicia felt the familiar heat rise in her chest. Not rage, not yet, but the ache of being measured and dismissed in the same breath. She met his eyes. "I'll remember you said that." Harlan laughed softly and pressed the elevator lock. The door slid shut. Behind her, a phone vibrated. One message. No sender name. "They're ready. Are you?" Alicia didn't turn around.
Alicia Monroe stood at the security desk long enough to feel herself becoming furniture. The guard's eyes skimmed her badge, paused, then flicked toward Officer Derek Harlan like he was waiting for permission to think. The lobby hummed with early morning noise, heels, murmured greetings, the hiss of the revolving door, but the space around Alicia felt sealed, airless. "She's good," the guard said finally, sliding the badge back. "Temporary consultant." Harlan's mouth curved. "Temporary," he repeated, as if tasting it. "Then she doesn't need full clearance." Alicia kept her shoulders square. "My clearance was approved by the mayor's office." Harlan didn't look impressed. "Lots of things get approved on paper." He reached past her and pressed a button on the elevator panel. The light for the executive floor stayed dark. "You'll want the public elevator," he said. "Third floor. Take a left. Someone will tell you where you're allowed to sit." Allowed. Sit. Alicia felt the familiar calculation start in her chest. Respond, and you're difficult. Stay silent, and you disappear. "I'm expected in conference room A," she said. "At 8:30. Harlan glanced at his watch, exaggerated. "Well, you're early. Guess that's one advantage of not having a real job yet." A man in a grey suit stepped up behind her, cleared his throat. "Excuse me." Harlan stepped aside instantly, smile snapping into place. "Morning, sir." The executive elevator opened. The man didn't look at Alicia as he passed. The doors closed. Alicia turned back to Harlan. "You're delaying my work." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I'm explaining how things work. Temps come and go. Don't act permanent." The words hit harder than she expected. She nodded once. "I'll remember that." Harlan laughed, short and dismissive. "You do that." She walked toward the public elevator, every step measured. Inside, the mirrored walls reflected her face, calm, controlled, eyes sharper than they looked. Her phone vibrated. "Log everything," the message read. She typed back one word. "Always." On the third floor, conference room A was already filling. Men in uniforms. A few women. Coffee cups. Laughter that died when she entered. Alicia took an empty seat near the wall. A captain began speaking about community optics and isolated incidents. Alicia listened, pen moving steadily. Names. Phrases. Deflections. The door opened. Harlan stepped in, leaning against the back wall, arms crossed. His eyes found her immediately. He mouthed the word. "Temporary." Alicia didn't look away. She wrote his name at the top of a fresh page and underlined it. Outside the room, a camera light blinked on. Someone had started recording. By noon, Alicia understood the building's language. It wasn't spoken outright. It lived in pauses, in polite smiles that hardened when questions went too far, in the way doors closed softly but firmly once you were on the wrong side of them. She moved through City Hall with a tablet tucked under her arm, observing. Listening. In the hallway outside Internal Affairs, 2 officers leaned close, voices low but not careful. Consultant, her. One muttered. Temporary, the other replied, amused. They always are. Alicia didn't turn her head. She noted the time. Inside a narrow office, Deputy Director Marianne Cole gestured for her to sit. The woman's desk was immaculate. No photos, no clutter, just stacked files and a faint citrus smell. You have to understand, Cole said, folding her hands. This department has been under a lot of pressure. Alicia nodded. Pressure doesn't excuse patterns. Cole smiled tightly. Patterns are subjective. So are excuses, Alicia replied. Silence stretched. Cole cleared her throat. Your role is advisory. You gather information. You don't, she paused, searching for a word that wouldn't sound like an order. Interfere. Alicia leaned forward. If I see misconduct, am I allowed to name it? Cole's eyes flicked to the door. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Outside, the elevator chimed. Voices rose and fell. Life continued. Alicia stood. I'll send my preliminary observations by end of day. Cole hesitated. That won't be necessary. It will, Alicia said gently. She left before the woman could answer. In the records room, a civilian clerk slid a thin folder across the counter. That's all we're cleared to release, he said. Alicia flipped it open. 3 complaints. All marked unsubstantiated. What about the rest? She asked. The clerk shrugged. Those are sealed. By whom? He lowered his voice. By people who've been here longer than you. Alicia met his gaze. Longer doesn't mean right. He looked away. Her phone buzzed again. Harlan transferred body cam footage late last night. Her jaw tightened. In a small review room, Alicia watched grainy footage play on a loop. Derek Harlan's voice filled the speakers, calm, confident, edged with something sharp. You need to step back. I said step back. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The camera angled down. A black woman's hands. Empty. Shaking. Alicia paused the video. She replayed it. She watched Harlan's posture, relaxed, almost bored, as authority wrapped around him like a second uniform. Footsteps sounded behind her. You're not cleared for that, Harlan said. She turned slowly. It's public record. Not yet, he replied. These things take time. Funny, Alicia said. Time seems to run out faster for some people. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You really think you're going to fix this place? I think, she said, that it speaks more than you realize. Harlan scoffed. Systems don't speak. People do. Exactly. He stepped closer. Careful. You're here on a short leash. Alicia held his gaze. Leashes only work if you agree to wear them. For a moment, something flickered across his face, uncertainty, quickly buried. Later, in the cafeteria, Alicia sat alone with a coffee gone cold. Conversations ebbed around her, cautious arcs that never quite reached her table. A young officer approached, hesitating. She looked up. Yes. He swallowed. Some of us want things to change. Wanting isn't the same as acting, Alicia said. He nodded. I know. He slid a folded note onto the table and walked away. Inside were names, dates, badge numbers. That night, Alicia typed until her eyes burned. She wrote about language, how procedure replaced accountability, how isolated erased repetition, how temporary justified disrespect. She sent the file to 3 addresses. One replied immediately. Good. Keep going. Outside her apartment window, sirens wailed, then faded. Alicia closed her laptop and leaned back, exhaustion settling into her bones. She thought of Harlan's smirk, of the way rooms shifted when he entered, of the silence that protected him. She whispered to the empty room, "I hear you." Somewhere across the city, a phone rang in the middle of the night. And this time, it wasn't hers. The joke landed before Alicia reached the doorway. "Guess we better behave," someone said inside the briefing room. "The consultant's watching." Laughter followed. Comfortable. Familiar. Alicia paused, fingers tightening around her tablet, then stepped in. The room didn't go silent, just quieter, like a radio turned down but not off. Officers sat around the table, uniforms creased, coffee cups half full. Derek Harlan leaned back in his chair, boots hooked around the legs like he owned the furniture. "Morning," he said. "Or is it afternoon now? Hard to tell when you don't punch a clock." Alicia took an empty seat. "Funny," she replied. "I hear jokes work better when they're not afraid of witnesses." A few heads dipped. Someone cleared their throat. Captain Ronald Pierce straightened his papers. "Let's stay focused." Harlan smirked. "Just keeping things light." "Light for whom?" Alicia asked. Pierce shot her a warning look. "This isn't a debate." "Bias doesn't disappear because we refuse to discuss it," she said. Harlan chuckled. "There it is. Everything's bias now." Alicia turned to him. When the same complaints follow the same officers, it stops being coincidence. "That footage again?" he asked. "You're really stuck on that?" "I'm stuck on what it shows," she said. "And what it leaves out." Pierce sighed. "The incident was reviewed." "By whom?" Alicia asked. No one answered. Harlan leaned forward. "You're chasing ghosts. People exaggerate. They get emotional." "Emotional," Alicia repeated. "Is that the official term?" He shrugged. "Call it experience." She met his eyes. Experience teaches people what they're allowed to get away with. The room stilled. Pierce stood. Meeting adjourned. Chairs scraped back. Conversations restarted in low tones. Alicia gathered her things slowly. As she stood, Harlan murmured, "Careful. You're making a name for yourself." She didn't look at him. "So are you." In the hallway, a woman brushed past her and whispered, "Thank you." Alicia turned, but the woman was already gone. Later that afternoon, Alicia sat with Janet Morales, a public defender whose office smelled of old books and burnt coffee. "They laugh because it works," Janet said. "Jokes are shields. If you call them out, you're too sensitive. If you don't, you agree." Alicia nodded. "Harlan's complaints keep disappearing." Janet snorted. "They don't disappear. They get buried." She slid a thick folder across the desk. "These never made it to internal affairs." Alicia flipped through pages, statements, dates, familiar language. She said he mocked her accent. "He called me dramatic. He said I should be grateful he was patient." Alicia closed the folder. "Why show me this now?" Janet met her gaze. "Because you're still here." On her way out, Alicia's phone buzzed again. "You're pushing too hard," an unknown number texted. She typed back. "Not hard enough." That evening, footage leaked. A local station aired a short clip, Harlan's voice, unmistakable, laughing as he spoke to a detained man off camera. "Relax," he said. "You people always think everything's an emergency." The anchor's face was tight. The department declined to comment. Alicia watched from her couch, pulse steady but heavy. Her phone rang. "Did you do this?" Cole demanded. "No," Alicia said. "But it proves my point. You're undermining the department." "I'm documenting it." There was a pause. "Your contract is under review." Alicia closed her eyes briefly. "Of course it is." The call ended. The next morning, Harlan waited by the entrance. "You like the spotlight?" he asked. "I like accountability," Alicia replied. He stepped closer. "You're temporary. I'm protected." Alicia looked past him, at the cameras mounted above the doors. Protection erodes. He laughed, but it sounded thinner now. Inside, an email waited. Public hearing scheduled. Your testimony requested. Alicia sat down slowly. Outside, laughter echoed down the hall, brittle and forced. Men joked like policy. And policy, she knew, was finally being asked to explain itself. The email sat in Alicia's inbox like a dare. Public hearing. Civil Oversight Committee. Witness requested. Alicia Monroe. She read it twice, then once more for the quiet threat buried between the lines. Requested meant visible. Visible meant exposed. By mid-morning, the building felt different. Eyes followed her longer. Conversations paused, then resumed with careful brightness. In Deputy Director Cole's office, the blinds were drawn. This is escalating, Cole said, voice clipped. You weren't hired to testify. I was hired to observe, Alicia replied. And report. Reports are internal. So is silence. Cole exhaled sharply. Your contract is temporary. Alicia nodded. So I keep hearing. You don't have standing, Cole continued. You're not permanent staff. The committee may decide your testimony isn't necessary. Or inconvenient, Alicia said. Cole's jaw tightened. You're endangering relationships. Alicia stood. I'm clarifying them. Outside, her phone buzzed again. They're trying to block you. Expect delays. She typed back. Expected. At lunch, she sat with Janet Morales in a crowded cafe across the street. The noise felt safer than quiet offices. They'll question your credibility, Janet said. They'll call you biased. Alicia stirred her soup. Bias is their favorite word. Because it sounds technical, Janet replied. Like a flaw instead of a response. Across the room, a television replayed the leaked footage. No sound now, just Harlan's face frozen mid-smirk. That's him, a man whispered nearby. Alicia's phone rang. Ms. Monroe, a male voice said smoothly. This is Assistant City Attorney Blake Turner. She stiffened. How can I help you? We're reviewing your eligibility to appear, Turner said. Given your consultant status, it may be more appropriate for permanent staff to represent findings. Findings don't represent themselves, Alicia replied. A pause. We'll be in touch. That afternoon, she found her access card blinking red. She tried again. Red. The guard avoided her eyes. They told me to escort you upstairs. Harlan appeared from nowhere, hands on his belt. Problem. She's locked out, the guard said. Harlan smiled. Happens when clearance expires. Alicia held up her phone. It hasn't. Must be a glitch, Harlan said lightly. Temporary systems fail. She stared at him. This is retaliation. Or procedure, he replied. They rode the elevator in silence, cameras humming softly overhead. In conference room A, Cole waited with Turner. We've decided, Turner said, that your testimony isn't required. Alicia Saturday the committee requested it. And the city advises against it, Turner replied. Cole added, you've done valuable work. But this is where it ends. Alicia folded her hands. You can end my contract. You can't erase what I've documented. Turner leaned back. Documentation is interpretation. Then interpret this, Alicia said, sliding a folder across the table. Cole opened it, color draining from her face. These were sealed, she whispered. Not anymore, Alicia said. Turner stood. This meeting is over. So is your control, Alicia replied. That evening, Alicia packed her desk. A cardboard box. A plant she'd never watered enough. A stack of notes. A young officer lingered in the doorway. They're scared, he said quietly. Of what? Alicia asked. Of you being believed. She smiled faintly. So am I. Outside, rain returned, harder this time. Alicia stood under the awning, box heavy in her arms. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. A woman's voice, steady. Ms. Monroe, this is Councilwoman Renee Watkins. Alicia straightened. Yes. I hear they're trying to silence you, Watkins said. The hearing stands. Alicia closed her eyes. Thank you. They called you temporary, Watkins continued. That doesn't mean disposable. The line went dead. Across the street, Harlan watched from the steps, jaw tight. Alicia met his gaze. Tomorrow, she would testify. Temporary people didn't testify. But permanent power was already listening. The first whistleblower called at 6:12 a.m. Alicia was already awake, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing sentences she might never get to finish. The phone vibrated on the nightstand, an unknown number pulsing insistently. Yes, she answered. A breath. Then a woman's voice, tight and controlled. I was told you're the one who listens. I am, Alicia said. Tell me. They spoke for 20 minutes. Dates. Names. The same phrases Alicia had learned to recognize. Non-compliant, agitated, officer safety. When the call ended, Alicia sat up slowly, grounding herself in the weight of the moment. By 8 o'clock, 3 more messages waited. One email came from a retired sergeant. Another from a dispatcher who wrote, I can't keep pretending I didn't hear what I heard. A third was a scanned memo stamped confidential, forwarded without comment. Alicia opened a new folder on her laptop and labeled it permanent. At City Hall, the atmosphere shifted from cautious to brittle. Security stood straighter. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. The hearing had been added to the public agenda overnight. Janet Morales met Alicia in the hallway, eyes wide. They're coming out of the woodwork. Because it's safer in numbers, Alicia said. And because they think you'll protect them. Alicia paused. I can't promise protection. Janet nodded. Just truth. In a borrowed office, Alicia took statements back to back. She didn't interrupt. She didn't soften their words. She let silence do its work. He joked, one officer said, staring at the floor. We all laughed. It felt easier. Alicia wrote, complicity. He told us complaints were career suicide, another whispered. Alicia wrote, fear. By noon, her phone rang again. You're enjoying this, Derek Harlan said without preamble. Alicia closed her eyes briefly. I'm documenting. You think a few stories change anything? He asked. This department outlasts you. Departments don't testify, Alicia replied. People do. He scoffed. You won't even be here next week. Neither might you, she said. The line went dead. Outside the building, a small crowd gathered, reporters, activists, city staff pretending not to look. A camera light blinked on as Alicia exited. Ms. Monroe, a reporter called. Do you believe the department fosters systemic racism? Alicia stopped. I believe systems reflect what they tolerate. Will you name officers involved? I will name patterns, she replied. Names follow patterns. That afternoon, a memo circulated internally. All staff are reminded to maintain professional conduct and avoid unauthorized communications. Someone slid it under Alicia's door with a handwritten note on top. Too late. In the early evening, Alicia met Councilwoman Renee Watkins in a quiet office overlooking the square. They're trying to negotiate, Watkins said. Damage control. Meaning? Alicia asked. They want a summary. No testimony. No names. Alicia shook her head. That preserves the system. Watkins studied her. You're asking for a fight. I'm asking for record, Alicia replied. Permanent record. Watkins smiled thinly. Then we proceed. As dusk settled, Alicia reviewed her files one last time. She cross-checked timelines, flagged contradictions, highlighted identical language used years apart by different officers. She paused on a familiar phrase. Temporary reassignment recommended. She deleted it and typed. Sustained. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You don't know who you're messing with. Alicia typed back, I know exactly who. At home, she laid out her notes on the table, arranging them like armor. She practiced answers aloud, voice steady, measured. In the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back, eyes ringed with exhaustion, posture unyielding. Permanent, she said softly, testing the word. Outside, sirens wailed, then faded. Somewhere across the city, doors were closing, files were being shredded, calls were being made. It wouldn't be enough. The record was already written. Tomorrow, it would be read aloud. The hearing room smelled like polished wood and old arguments. Alicia sat at the witness table, hands folded, spine straight, eyes fixed on the microphone as if it might bite. Rows of seats behind her filled quickly. Reporters, city staff, residents who had learned to recognize moments that mattered. Cameras clicked. Red lights blinked on. Councilwoman Renee Watkins rapped the gavel once. This hearing of the Civil Oversight Committee is now in session. Alicia exhaled slowly. Ms. Monroe, Watkins said, you are requested as a witness due to your role in reviewing departmental conduct. Please state your name and position for the record. Alicia Monroe, she said. Independent consultant to the city. From the corner of her eye, she saw Derek Harlan seated behind the department's attorney. Jaw tight, posture rigid. You may proceed, Watkins said. Alicia leaned forward. I was contracted to observe patterns of conduct within the police department. What I found were not isolated incidents, but repeated behaviors reinforced by silence, procedure, and fear. Murmurs rippled through the room. She continued. Language was consistent across complaints filed years apart. Words like agitated, non-compliant, emotional were used to justify escalation in situations where no threat was present. The attorney rose. Objection. Speculation. Watkins raised a hand. Overruled. The witness is summarizing documented findings. Alicia nodded gratefully and opened her folder. I reviewed 37 complaints marked unsubstantiated. 21 involved the same officer. Harlan shifted. I also reviewed body camera footage, Alicia said, including footage recorded after official timestamps. The attorney stiffened. That footage was incomplete. So was the reporting, Alicia replied calmly. A council member leaned forward. Are you alleging misconduct? I'm stating evidence, Alicia said. Misconduct is a conclusion this committee will reach. Watkins turned. Officer Harlan, you may respond. Harlan stood, smoothing his uniform. I've served this city for 14 years. I've made tough calls. People don't like being held accountable. Alicia looked at him then. Accountability requires standards applied equally. Harlan laughed shortly. Easy to say when you don't wear a badge. I don't need a badge to recognize abuse, Alicia said. The room went still. Watkins addressed Harlan. Officer, did you refer to Ms. Monroe as temporary on her first day? He hesitated. I don't recall. Alicia opened a document. I do. She read aloud. Temps don't get that access. Don't get comfortable. You're here until someone permanent shows up. Harlan's face flushed. That's not racism. It's power, Alicia said. Used to diminish. The attorney interrupted. These are personal grievances. They're institutional patterns, Alicia replied. Personal when experienced. Systemic when repeated. A woman in the audience stood abruptly. He said the same thing to me. Security moved, but Watkins gestured for calm. Alicia continued, voice steady. Whistleblowers described being warned against filing complaints. Others described jokes that doubled as policy. She paused, letting the silence settle. Systems speak through what they allow, she said, and through whom they protect. The attorney conferred urgently with Harlan. Watkins leaned forward. Ms. Monroe, what do you recommend? Alicia swallowed. Independent investigation. Immediate suspension pending review. Structural reform. Harlan slammed his hand on the table. This is a setup. Alicia met his eyes. It's a mirror. Watkins raised the gavel. "Officer Harlan, you will conduct yourself appropriately." He sank back into his chair, jaw clenched. A council member spoke. "Ms. Monroe, your contract status was raised as a concern." Alicia nodded. Temporary roles are often used to limit authority. But truth doesn't expire. A hush fell. Watkins cleared her throat. "The committee will recess to deliberate." As the gavel fell, Alicia's hands began to shake. She clasped them tighter, grounding herself. Behind her, whispers rose. Cameras followed Harlan as he stood abruptly and exited the room, shoulders stiff. Janet Morales squeezed Alicia's arm. "You did it." Alicia shook her head. "I told it." After the recess, Watkins returned, face grave. "Effective immediately," she said, "Officer Derek Harlan is placed on administrative leave pending investigation." Gasps filled the room. Harlan froze in the doorway. Watkins continued. "Further, this committee recommends an external audit of departmental conduct." Alicia closed her eyes, relief and exhaustion crashing together. As the room emptied, Watkins approached her quietly. "They tried to call you temporary." Alicia nodded. Watkins smiled. "You were permanent enough." Outside, flashes lit the steps. Reporters shouted questions. Alicia stepped into the light, heart pounding, knowing this was not an ending. It was a record. And records, once spoken, could not be unheard. Administrative leave didn't sound like much, but it changed the building's posture. The next morning, Alicia walked through City Hall without being stopped. No badge inspected. No jokes. The silence followed her instead, thicker now, heavier with consequence. Harlan's locker sat unopened in the precinct hallway, his name still taped in block letters above the door. Officers passed it carefully, like it might explode if acknowledged. "He's not answering calls," someone whispered. "Lawyered up," another replied. Alicia heard everything. In a conference room repurposed for damage control, Deputy Director Cole sat across from her, eyes rimmed red. "I didn't think it would go this far," Cole said. Alicia folded her hands. "It always does. Eventually." Cole swallowed. "Internal affairs is overwhelmed. Complaints are coming in faster than we can log them." "Because people believe they'll be read," Alicia replied. Cole nodded faintly. "We failed them." The admission hung in the air, fragile and overdue. Outside, headlines stacked up like evidence. Officer placed on leave after hearing. Whistleblowers emerge. City promises review. Alicia avoided reading the comments. Janet Morales called that afternoon. "They're reopening cases." "How many?" Alicia asked. "All of them that matter." Alicia closed her eyes. Relief didn't feel like celebration. It felt like bruises surfacing after adrenaline faded. That evening, she received an email marked confidential. Subject: Status update, Derek Harlan. The investigation was moving quickly. Prior complaints were corroborated. Body camera discrepancies confirmed. Supervisory negligence noted. No names yet. But soon. Her phone rang again. "This is Blake Turner," the assistant city attorney said, voice tight. "We underestimated the scope." "Yes," Alicia replied. "There will be resignations." "Yes," she said again. A pause. "Including mine." Alicia absorbed that quietly. "Accountability spreads," she said. "So does avoidance." The line went dead. Later, Alicia sat alone in the hearing room, now empty. The polished table reflected overhead lights, indifferent to history. She replayed moments in her head, Harlan's smirk, the laughter, the way rooms shifted when power entered. She felt no satisfaction thinking of him now, suspended in a limbo of his own making. Only sadness. And fatigue. A soft knock sounded. Councilwoman Watkins stepped in. "You should be resting." "I will," Alicia said. "Soon." Watkins sat across from her. "There's something you should know." Alicia waited. "The mayor is forming a permanent oversight office," Watkins said. Independent. With authority. Alicia's breath caught. Who's leading it? Watkins smiled slightly. We'd like you to. Alicia looked down at the table, at her hands, steady, scarred by work no one applauded until it hurt. They called me temporary, she said. They were wrong, Watkins replied. Outside the building, a crowd gathered again, smaller this time. Not shouting. Watching. Alicia stepped onto the steps, pausing when she saw Harlan across the street. No uniform, jacket pulled tight, phone pressed to his ear. He looked smaller without the badge, stripped of the posture it had given him. Their eyes met briefly. He looked away first. A reporter called out, Ms. Monroe, do you feel justice was served? Alicia considered the question carefully. Justice isn't a moment, she said. It's a process. And processes take people willing to stay. She walked past them, into the evening. At home, Alicia sat in the dark, letting quiet settle into her bones. The cost of speaking had been high, sleep lost, friendship strained, fear carried like a second coat. But the silence had been worse. She opened her laptop and began drafting a framework. Policies. Protections. Language that could no longer hide behind jokes. At the top of the document, she typed a title. Permanent Oversight. She saved the file. Tomorrow, the work would continue. Power had shifted. And this time, it wasn't temporary. The appointment memo arrived without ceremony. No press release. No applause. Just a single page stamped with authority and restraint. Director, Office of Independent Police Oversight. Effective immediately. Alicia read it standing at her kitchen counter, coffee untouched, dawn pressing pale light through the window. The word permanent appeared twice. She let herself read it again. At City Hall, the office they gave her was small and deliberate. Glass walls. No heavy doors. A conference table big enough for witnesses, not power plays. She set her bag down and stood still, listening to the building's old sounds rearrange themselves around her. A knock came. Come in, she said. Janet Morales stepped inside, grinning despite the fatigue etched into her face. Look at you. Alicia smiled faintly. Look at the work. Janet nodded. They're scheduling the first case review. Public. Good, Alicia said. Sunlight matters. Outside, a television mounted in the hallway played muted footage. Derek Harlan's name scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Former officer resigns amid investigation. Alicia didn't stop to watch. In the weeks that followed, the city tried to learn a new rhythm. Files moved out of locked drawers. Meetings included people who'd never been invited before. Language changed, slowly, awkwardly, like a muscle relearning motion. Some resisted openly. This office is redundant, a union representative said in one meeting. Alicia met his gaze. So was accountability. Until it wasn't. Others resisted quietly. Missed emails, delayed documents, questions asked twice in hopes of different answers. Alicia answered them all. One afternoon, a woman stood in the doorway, clutching a folded complaint. I almost didn't come, the woman said. Alicia gestured to a chair. You're here now. The woman's voice shook as she spoke. Alicia didn't rush her. She didn't soften the edges. She wrote everything down. When it was over, the woman exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Thank you, she whispered. Alicia nodded. You shouldn't have needed me to listen. Outside, reporters waited less often now. Outrage had moved on, as it always did. What remained were processes and people willing to sit through them. At night, Alicia dreamed of elevators that never opened. She woke sometimes with her heart racing, Harlan's voice echoing, temporary, the word stripped of humor, sharp as it had always been. In one dream, she stood in the hearing room alone, speaking to empty chairs. She started leaving a lamp on. One evening, as she locked the office, she noticed someone across the street. A man standing too still, hands shoved into his pockets. Derek Harlan. No uniform. No smirk. He stepped forward hesitantly. I just wanted to say. Alicia raised a hand. This isn't appropriate. He swallowed. I lost everything. She studied him, not unkindly. You lost authority. Not everything. He flinched. You never wanted revenge, did you? No, she said. I wanted record. He nodded slowly. I didn't think it would be me. It's always someone, Alicia replied. Eventually. She turned and walked away. At the end of the quarter, the city released its first independent audit. Findings were measured. Language careful but clear. Recommendations firm. It wasn't justice. Not fully. But it was movement. On a quiet Friday, Alicia stood in the lobby where it had begun. Same marble. Same lights. Different posture. The guard nodded at her. Evening, director. She nodded back. At the elevator, she hesitated, then pressed the executive button. The doors opened. Inside, she caught her reflection, older, steadier, eyes holding both cost and conviction. Her phone buzzed. You still awake? Janet texted. Always. Alicia typed back. As the elevator rose, Alicia thought of all the times she'd been told to wait, to soften, to leave quietly. She thought of the word temporary, how it had been used like a warning. The doors opened on the top floor. Alicia stepped out. Permanent power, she knew now, wasn't about staying forever. It was about changing what stayed after you spoke. She walked down the hall, heels steady, carrying the weight of a record that could no longer be buried. And for the first time, the building listened. 6 months later, the lobby no longer felt like a test. Alicia Munro crossed it without thinking about her steps, without counting eyes or weighing silence. The marble still gleamed, the light still hummed, but the air had shifted, less defensive, less sure of itself. Which, she'd learned, was a kind of progress. In her office, a framed document hung on the wall. Not her appointment letter. Not a headline. A single page from the first audit report. One paragraph circled in ink. Language that minimizes harm enables harm to repeat. She read it every morning. Cases came steadily now. Not dramatically. Not always cleanly. Some ended in discipline. Some ended in policy changes that would never trend online. Some ended in nothing more than a record that could not be erased. Alicia learned to live with that. Justice, she understood, wasn't a finish line. It was maintenance. One afternoon, a young intern hesitated in her doorway. Director Munro. Yes. They're updating the access badges, the intern said. They asked what title you want printed. Alicia smiled faintly. My name is fine. No designation. She shook her head. Power doesn't need reminders. That evening, as she packed up, Alicia passed the security desk. The officer on duty nodded respectfully. Good night, Good night, she replied. Outside, the city moved on, cars, sirens, laughter, arguments. Systems never slept. Neither did the work. At a crosswalk, Alicia paused, watching the light change. Temporary had once been used to shrink her. Permanent, she'd learned, wasn't a position. It was impact. She crossed the street as the signal turned green, carrying with her the quiet certainty that some words, once spoken aloud, never lost their power. And that was enough to stay.